Is the U.S. government involved in a cover-up of the UFO phenomenon? This is fascinating and something that we ufologists and UFO researchers have long suspected and believed and even known, I guess, to some extent. But now we actually have Congress people going on record saying they too believe in the UFO cover-up conducted by the government. So this is major news, in my opinion, major forward progress as far as the public's evolution in their understanding of the phenomenon. So before I get too much further, this is Cosmic Road, where I discuss UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe and hit the bell. And as I'm going through this story, please comment below and let me know what you think. Oh, and by the way, that's my cat Baxter back there. He's helping me out on this video. So thank you, Bax. I appreciate it. You are being very helpful. And if you listen really closely, you can hear him purr, maybe. So, but yeah, so let's get into this story. First of all, I'm going to talk about Tim Burchett, who is a congressman, and he is going on record saying that he believes the government is involved in a cover-up of the UFO phenomenon. To me, this is, beyond amazing that a person of the Congress that would actually say this on record in front of a camera. So without any further ado, here are his comments on that matter.
Member of the House Foreign Affairs Transportation Infrastructure Committee is one of Congress's most vocal advocates for declassifying all government data about UFOs. So if there are aliens out there, if there are these UFOs out there, how have none of these sensors, commercial or government, and even NASA, which is civilian, picked them up?
I suspect they have. Yeah, I think it's the biggest cover-up we've ever seen. They had our committee, the Intelligence Committee, reviewed it basically, and I was asked afterwards what I thought about it. I said we got hosed. Basically, the American public did. There's information out there. There's Navy pilots that were actually in the audience who would have talked about their encounters in the air with unidentified flying objects, and it's continued on. There's some of the footage you see right there. I've actually talked to the Navy pilot, one of them that was in the air, I believe, when this was being filmed, and it's a power, it's a control thing. Washington D.C. I mean, we won't turn loose anything about the Kennedy assassination. For goodness sakes.
We did that segment last night. There's now a lawsuit. 60 years later, they still haven't released all the files. But you think about the polls on this. 65% believe in alien life. 87% UFOs are not a security risk. If you believe that there's something flying around in the sky that's able to evade all of our commercial satellite imaging, all of our commercial and civilian telescopes, radar, everything else that looks out into the heavens. There's universities that have this stuff. There's obviously NASA, on and on and on and on. How do you believe it's not a security risk?
And that's a great question. We had in this hearing, it wasn't a classified briefing. I believe they talked about 14 different close encounters with our military aircraft. And if there's something in our military air zone that we do not control, that government, we better be concerned. And, and of course, the question is it the Russians? Well, if it's the Russians, Putin's ego, he would land one of the UFOs on the White House lawn and get out bare-chested, ride a unicorn up and punch the president in the mouth and get back on it and fly back. It's Chinese, same thing. If we had it, we would control the airways. It's either one of two things. It's either we have captured something and we're reverse engineering, which some of the pilots that I've talked to, Navy pilots, think that it is skunk works, or it is something from outer space.
So there you have it. We have a member of the Congress actually saying the government is covering up UFOs. That's huge. In my mind, that's one of the most significant developments in this whole saga. And Baxter agrees with me. So there you go. Now, Tim Burchett is talking about the government as a whole. So he believes there's some deep level stuff going on, and he doesn't go into any details. I would be very curious to know if he believes it's been going on since Roswell, if not before. I'm hoping he expounds on that in a future interview. I think that he's mainly referring to stuff that he knows or intuits, but I don't think he has any concrete information on it. He's just sensing that there is a cover-up and there's more going on than can be perceived. He can sense the strings of the puppet, but he can't see the strings themselves. At least that's my take. But I think we're getting to the point where eventually we're going to see those strings and we're going to see the puppet master, at least in part. We have so much progress within the government being made on this issue, including a new UFO U.A.P. report due to Congress by the end of this month. That's amazing. We also have Inspector General investigations in the Pentagon created by Lou Elizondo into the obfuscation and the problems that he was experiencing during his days in ATIP, the people that were stymieing him in ATIP and standing in his way. That includes probably smearing him afterwards as well. And as it happens, Lou's colleague, Chris Mellon, has also gone on the record talking about the cover-up in the government. So let's go to Chris and see what Chris has to say about the government covering up the phenomenon.
And while the government is seemingly taking the issue seriously, there's one military branch that has seemed to have gone AWOL on the issue, the United States Air Force. Former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense Christopher Mellon joins us now to discuss. Christopher, thank you so much for joining the show. So first of all, why do you think the Air Force is not really saying much about this? I mean, this seems to be pretty big news.
Yeah, it's baffling. And from the beginning, it's been the U.S. Navy. It's been Navy videos. It's been Navy reports. They've been very quiet. There's been a traditional stigma in the Air Force. I think that's part of it. But this lack of responsiveness to this degree is rather baffling.
And do you think, what do you think explains that silence? Is it just is there genuinely something that is being covered up, or is it a kind of bureaucratic, well, we don't have to be transparent with you, who are you, we're the government, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so we don't know, but it does cause you to wonder if perhaps they're covering something up, because they released a report in 2015 identifying 1,800 incidents between 2010 and 2015 of unknown tracks of interest. Now this report comes forward and they seem to have virtually nothing to say and nothing to contribute. We know that F-15s have been scrambled. That's press reporting. We know that NORAD has hundreds of unknowns every year in the atmosphere and thousands in space. It's rather bizarre that they claim, the U.A.P. task force, they're still trying to get information from the Air Force after all these months.
So there you have it. Chris Mellon believes there is, in fact, a cover-up within the government. Now, he's specifically referring to the Air Force, of course, but he does believe there is a cover-up. That's significant in my mind because Chris is somebody that is openly skeptical of the deeper layers of this stuff. He has said that he doesn't believe there is a project, a secret project or group or a control group, a Majestic 12 breakaway group, that sort of thing, that he does not believe that exists within the government. He has said that numerous times, that he has looked for it and couldn't find it. I don't think that means it doesn't exist. I think that means it's very well hidden. Part of it likely exists in the private sector. Some people think most of it does. However, if the deep underground military bases exist, the DUMBs, and they seem to, then the government is still heavily involved in this stuff. So I don't believe it's entirely within the private sector or even mostly, but who knows? It could be half and half. But at any rate, I believe the government is still heavily involved. And now Chris is saying at least that he believes the Air Force is covering this up. So he's not willing to go as far as to say the government as a whole is covering it up, but he does believe the Air Force is covering it up. So could the Air Force alone be responsible for things like the deep underground military bases, as well as military abductions and so on? totally possible. If they are the Area 51 people, they are the Wright-Patterson people. It's very likely in my mind that the Air Force is the driving force behind the cover-up and behind the government's involvement with the phenomenon. That is where the real control group or breakaway group is. And again, Baxter is agreeing with me, so it's got to be right. That is a look of agreement on his face. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. That would be super awesome. I would really appreciate it. Like I said, please comment below. Let me know what you think. That really helps. I'm really curious to see what you have to say. Please hit the subscribe button and don't forget to hit the bell to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. Also, there's social media links below. Please follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and it would help a lot if you would share my post when I post stuff on social media. There's also a PayPal button below if you wanted to support the channel. That would rock. Until next time, Cosmic Road out.